Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, His All Holiness, Bartholomew, we are honored and privileged to have the opportunity today here in Istanbul to join in dialogue and discussion on a topic which for us at the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy is of vital importance, in particular today. As you see, the official title for the event, Religions as Catalysts for Peaceful Coexistence. Religious leaders' vital role for enabling refugees' social integration. For many of you who are less familiar with the field of cultural diplomacy, I wanted to just clarify what we mean when we speak about cultural diplomacy. At the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy, we identify two main forms of cultural diplomacy. The first form I'm sure you're familiar with, especially driving down the street where we are right now. British Council, Alliance Française, Goethe Institute. As one thinks of cultural diplomacy in the classical sense, it was primarily the work of governments, public diplomacy, soft power, winning the hearts and minds of foreign audiences. However, the form of cultural diplomacy I'd like to focus on today is a different form that we consider more modern cultural diplomacy, which is just as much, what role does the private sector have? What role does civil society have? What role do we as citizens, do we as religious leaders, do we as civil society leaders have? What potential do we have? Not to persuade or not to attract, as was done in the past, but we feel essential today when we speak about cultural diplomacy is to foster dialogue, understanding, and trust. We don't have to agree with each other. The goal of today's conference is not to have a consensus, and this is the recipe for peace in the Middle East. We don't even have to be friends. Of course, it's better if we are, especially as we look at the neighborhoods where religion very often can serve as a barrier and as a chasm. So the goal for us when we speak about cultural diplomacy today is how does one at least establish that understanding and that trust? And for us, essential for the topic of today's discussions is, of course, the role of religion. As one looks at cultural diplomacy research, teaching, publications, and programs, almost 100% until today, religion is absent. Very often the thought is religion, don't talk about that, that's divisive, that's provocative. Talk about jazz, talk about art, talk about history in the cultural sense. And for a long time this has been a taboo. Although we at the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy believe there's many more moderates when one looks at Islam, when one looks at Judaism, when one looks at Christianity, many more moderates than extremists. However, unfortunately, as we know, due to the nature of media, due to the nature of politics, interests, etc., very often what we hear about are those small groups of extremists in each of the Abrahamic faiths and also beyond. So for us, essential is to look at this tremendous potential that we see for the dialogue between those faiths. And key to us is not only to keep that dialogue international, as we've done today as a first step in this process, but also to keep it interdisciplinary. We think it would be disadvantageous to just have religious leaders speaking with religious leaders, or academics speaking with academics. So by having this interdisciplinary approach, we think the chances are much higher for a sustainable approach. So we see today as, let's say not the beginning, but one of the first sessions in a series of events that hopefully will grow, that hopefully will intensify. And of course, the goal of peace is a very lofty goal. We hope at least that we can make some contributions and be more aware what role do we have as religious leaders, as civil society leaders, to at least come closer to this understanding and trust. So we see a huge potential for this field in terms of research, publications, teaching, and programs. And we are very excited and honored that we can have today's events in the patronage and also the support of His All Holiness Bartholomew. And I'm also very grateful to our advisory board member, Anna Diamantopoulou. It was really thanks to her hard work together with Evie and the whole team that we can all be here together today from all parts of the world. So thank you again very, very much to everyone for having come. We are very optimistic and very enthusiastic about the discussions, and we look forward to learning from all of you. Thank you very much.